Hey everyone, I'm outside again to talk about the Time Force episode Reflections of Evil. It's a decent episode. I feel like they could have done more with it, but I mean, for what it is, it's fine. It's just kind of weird because it's one of those types of episodes that, like, most seasons do this type of episode and they do a lot more with it. It's one of those ones where they bring back a bunch of old monsters, except here it's only two, and some weird monster we've never seen before, which is kind of like Zed's Monster Mash, where there's a bunch of old monsters back, then also that Key guy who never shows up again. Whatever, anyway, summary. At the beginning, there's this really nice character bit with the Rangers at the clock tower, all strewn around. Let's see, Wes and Katie are teasing Lucas for obsessing over himself in the mirror, and there's this funny line where Katie, I can't remember her exact line, I didn't put it in my notes, and power's out, so I can't really go and check. And my phone's almost dead. I don't want to waste the battery going to YouTube or whatever. Anyway, her line is something like, "Can't you survive without looking at yourself in the mirror?" And Lucas goes, "No." I just love how just the delivery of his "no" is perfect. Anyway, Nadira is looking at herself in the mirror and she sees the mutant Mirrorcon or Miracon, whatever. I don't know. I don't remember how to spell its name. Anyway, Miracon can go into mirrors and create alternate dimensions in the mirrors. It's a cool power. Not really a mutant thing, but whatever. So anyway, he agrees to work with Nadira to get the Rangers. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know who released Miracon. I guess Rancic did without Nadira knowing. Whatever. Anyway, he uses a mirror to reflect the light, which turns into lasers. Okay, sure, why not? So anyway, the Rangers are trying to catch him, and he goes into this warehouse room, and there's this circle of mirrors in the middle. He goes into one of the mirrors, the Rangers go over, they're looking around, and suddenly they all get pulled into the mirrors, and let's see. At first it looks like they're all separated, because they're pulled into different mirrors, but then they're all together, except for Wes. So anyway, most of the Rangers are fighting with Red Eye, who was a mutant from, I don't remember when, but a while ago, and not a particularly memorable monster either, but whatever, I do recognize it, and it's neat that it's like an old monster. Anyway, Wes finds the others pretty easily. I don't know what the point was of having them be separated. I can't remember what happened in Time Ranger, but I'm guessing it's something to do with the footage, maybe. So anyway, they're fighting with Red Eye, and then they defeat her, him, whatever. Then they fight Iron Spike, who was from Full Exposure, the worst episode of Time Force. But Iron Spike was cool, so it's cool to see him again. Doesn't really do a whole lot. He doesn't have a whole lot of personality, but it's cool to see him again, I guess. And then they fight a mutant they've never fought before, Angel Con. Okay. Like, you couldn't stick him in a previous episode or something? Now, that's the thing I was thinking about, like, this is the type of episode where you see a bunch of old monsters get to come back, kind of like Hexiba's Graveyard, or, like I said, Zed's Monster Mash, and then there's, dang, I know there's a Lightspeed episode, one of the ones where they go into the Shadow World and they fight a bunch of old monsters. There's a lot of episodes like this, but this one doesn't really go too far with the concept, or even the concept of a mirror dimension. That doesn't really mean much. Anyway, the episode's fine. It's just kind of weird they don't go as far as I think they could have gone. So then, going through my notes here. Okay, Eric happens to walk in. I assume he must have been, like, following the mutant or something, because the mutant was in the city earlier, causing havoc, so maybe the Silver Guardians were called, he tracked it down or something, and he's trying to find where it went. He found that it went to this warehouse. So anyway, he goes into one of the mirrors. He helps Wes fight Miracon, whatever. And the other Rangers show up. They fight Miracon. Miracon grows, and Circuit sends the Zords through the mirror. Don't know how that works, but whatever. They defeat Miracon. They escape the mirror world. Okay. I thought it was going to be like they defeated him in the mirror world, but then in the real world he still exists because they only defeated him in the mirror world. But I guess because Miracon can just go into the mirror himself, that, I don't know, I guess that was actually him that they destroyed, whatever. at Ransik's base, Nadira hears someone, and for some reason she thinks it's Mirakon, even though it's obviously Gluto. And this is an interesting episode because it reminds you that Gluto exists. Gluto really hasn't played a big part. The series is almost over with. He's fought the Rangers once, like way back in the first or second episode, and yeah, other than that, he hasn't really played any kind of a major part. He has like one line here and there every couple of episodes. Sometimes he's standing in the background, but he's not a very proactive character, which is really interesting, considering he was the main character in Time Ranger. He was the main villain of that series. I understand why they changed it over here, because I'm guessing the suit was really bulky. They had their own ideas about like what kind of villain they wanted, and Gluto wouldn't really fit that kind of a role that they wanted for Ransik. But anyway, Gluto, it turns out, is asking Nadira out on a date. She's offended by it, like, slaps him in the face. And then, let's see, she goes to see Ransik. Ransik is preparing to go out and find Frax. Remember that plot point? I don't know, it's just kind of weird, because the episode was focused around Mirakon, and then it just kind of, it dumps on this other thing, like, hey, remember Gluto exists? So, hey, remember Ransik is looking for Frax? It kind of feels like they're running out of time. Then we go back to the clock tower, and the Rangers are relaxing, and we get a follow-up to earlier at the beginning of the episode when the Rangers were teasing Lucas about the mirror that he was looking at. There was a scene at the beginning where he drops the mirror, it breaks, and Wes tells him, it's 7 years bad luck. Anyway, at the end, Katie buys Lucas a new mirror, but then he's like, I don't want to see any mirrors for a while. She's like, come on, take it, no, and then it drops, breaks, Wes wakes up, and he's like, oh, hey, that's another 7 years. So, I don't really have a whole lot of analytic insight on this episode. It's an okay episode. It's a perfectly fine episode of Power Rangers. If this were to be an episode now, I would be really impressed, because it has most of what I want from a Power Rangers episode. It's got a lot of character moments between the Rangers. It's got a unique villain with unique powers, and they come up with an interesting way to defeat him. Well, not so much that, because all they do is just kind of fight him until he's dead, and then that's it. We get an ongoing thing with the monsters, although Gluto doesn't really play a big part in the series, and I feel like he was only inserted here for this part just to remind people he existed before the next episode, where he does play a slightly bigger part, and then there's a follow-up thing with Ransik going out to find Frax. It's fine. It's nothing amazing, but it's fine. I don't really know what else to say about it, so I'm going to end it here. See ya.